Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, my name is Miriam Salam. So in this video I'm going to be talking about what you should consider before deciding either you want to go to the UK or you want to come to Canada. So I lived in the UK for 7 years before I moved to Canada, and so far I've been living in Canada for 2 years. So I just thought it would be good to do like a video from someone that have lived in both countries to give you a perspective of what you should expect before making that big decision of either to start processing to jackpot to the UK or to jackpot to Canada, especially if you're coming from Nigeria. So again, I'm Nigerian, so most of the things I'll be saying it would probably be for people deciding to immigrate from Nigeria. I'm gonna start by saying picking where to go eventually is up to you. It's different for different people depending on what stage you're in your life and depending on maybe your finances as well. I'm gonna start with the pros of the UK and then I'll go into the pros of Canada, then I'll go into the cons. I have my note here so I don't forget what to say. Firstly, for the UK, your processing is easier because I know many people are going based on school, and if they're going with their family, their partner could easily become a dependent and they can go together. And I know the processing is pretty much DIY, like you apply for school, you get admission, you pay your tuition fee and you go like with your family. And so far from the people that moved from Nigeria to the UK, the process doesn't take so long. So I would say that's one point. If you're considering going to the UK, the process is shorter and you can easily go through school. I know people go through other means like spousal, or they're going through a job. I won't really go into that, but I'll just mention like the popular one I know is very common is going to do a master's, and one person, either you're single, you can go alone. If you're with your partner, one person can decide to go as a student and the other person become the dependent. Secondly, I'll say it's pretty much cheaper to go to the UK. I mean, you pay for your tuition fee and I think you have to have like money for your accommodation and all of that. So I think compared to Canada, you don't need like extremely high amount of like proof of fund or something like that. Thirdly, I would say if you're looking to go somewhere not too far away from home, referring to Nigeria, UK is better. It's just 6 hours like direct flight and you're already in Lagos, you're doing Dirty December and doing all of that stuff. You can even go and surprise your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, families, parent in Nigeria, because it's just 6 hours and the tickets are not that extremely expensive. In fact, you can get tickets during off-peak period that are quite cheap. So if it's important for you to stay very close to your family, maybe you really want to stay close to your older parent or something, and you want to be like not too far away, that if they need you, you can easily go back home, then I'll say go to the UK. Fourthly, I'll say compared to Canada, UK is quite diverse. Like there's a big community of Nigerian people there, Africans, like it's very diverse, lots of like Indians and yeah, just people from all over the world. And like you having access to like your traditional food or access to someone making your hair or something like that, like it's pretty much easy because there are lots and lots and lots of Nigerians there, lots of African stores, lots of like people that can do something for you and people you can relate to. So yeah, if that's very important to you, I'll say go to the UK. Apart from the processing being easy, that you can do DIY yourself, I mentioned that the process is quite fast as well. I know people that applied for their student visa or to go and study in the UK and they got it in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that. So yeah, I would say that point, one, the process is easier, two, the process is a bit faster compared to Canada. So all these 5 points, if these are important to you, definitely consider going to the UK over Canada. So I'm gonna move to the pros of moving to Canada. So first one I would say that stood out to me, especially for someone coming from Nigeria, when you think of long term in terms of settling down, Canada is the goal. Like usually you do like express entry or other processing, even education, and you can easily like move from wherever you are, like temporary permit or visa, to permanent residence. And if you're doing express entry, you would have your permanent residence permit from Nigeria, like approved from Nigeria. So I think when it comes to long term, you should think of like Canada is more beneficial compared to the UK, which is going to lead me to my second point, which is becoming a citizen in Canada is quite easier. I think after 3 years you can become a citizen. After 3 years of PR, you can become a citizen of the country. I don't think I've seen any other country like with this easy process, apart from countries that you can easily pay for your citizenship and just pay for your passport or something like that. But going through like a process, I don't think I've seen any other countries like that is 3 years and you become a citizen of the country. So if that's like the ultimate goal for you and you're not looking at short term, like you just want to jackpot from the country like for now and get your head out of Nigeria or wherever you're coming from, if you're thinking, you know what, long term, maybe you have kids and you're thinking what would that be for them in 5 to 7 years time, then maybe you should consider Canada. Thirdly, Canada is a bigger country compared to the UK. That means the opportunities are endless. There's so much opportunities in Canada for you to tap into, either for your career or your business or anything you want to do. Everything is bigger here. The houses are bigger, the roads are bigger, there's more jobs, investment opportunities are more compared to the UK. So if those are like important to you, then I would say consider Canada. Fourthly, I'm going to say compared to the UK, everyone might not agree with this point, but I feel like when people come to the country first time, they quickly get the job they want compared to the UK. I feel like in the UK you have to do lots of casual jobs before you eventually get that job that you want. But most times I see people come to Canada and in 2 months they already have like the job they're like doing maybe from back home, or they're already like doing like a professional job that they really want to go into. I don't think that process is quicker or faster in the UK. Most times in the UK, when people first get to the country, they're doing like cleaning, like they're doing like health support and all of that. I mean, that could be some people's dream job and what they've gone to university to study and want to do. I'm just saying when it comes to white collar jobs in Canada, I think getting into your dream job is quicker and faster than the UK. You might not agree with this point. It's just something that I've noticed and I've seen over the years of living in the UK and living in Canada. Lastly, I'll say when it comes to Canada, there's a clear process to follow for you to, again, do all this immigration process, like get from visa to permanent resident, or go from becoming a temporary resident permit, a permanent resident permit, or becoming a permanent resident permit, a citizen. Compared to UK, it's not clear, and the process sometimes is a bit blur. Sometimes you don't know like, okay, what is the next step after the student permit, after you get the 2 years of working as a student. So if you're thinking of that, you just want something straightforward, yes, definitely consider Canada. So now let's get to the cons of both countries. To be honest, I don't really have much, and I think I have like 2 or 3 points for each countries, which is like very significant. Obviously there's some small ones that I don't see that I don't think is going to be a big deciding factor when you're choosing to immigrate, but let's just get into it. So for UK, like I said, when it comes to short term, leaving the country right now in the next 2 months, UK is the place to go. But in terms of after you get to the country, yeah, you finish the study, you get your 2 years working permits, like there's no clear process for you to get to become a citizen, and it takes so long for people to become a citizen of like the UK, like of the British citizen, I mean. So it's like the process takes long, and you hear stories like people have been in the UK for 7-10 years and they're still like don't have a clear immigration permit or clear immigration paper that they have. That's because UK doesn't make things easy. It's really blur and really stressful to become a British citizen, which I think is frustrating. So in terms of short term, it's great, but when you're thinking long term, especially when you have kids, it's long. Personally, if I have kids or I want to stay long term outside the country, might not make me consider the UK. I would probably want to go somewhere that is very clear and I know in 3 to 5 years I'm already a citizen. Another cons I can say is, like I said, many people find themselves stuck in casual jobs in the UK just because there's lots of, when it comes to career wise, if you're not born there, or even when you're born there, like I feel like when it comes to the career sector or work sector, there's so many biases and it's always very difficult for people to really establish themselves in the country in terms of jobs. Like you will see someone with a master's degree doing like cleaning jobs, like it's very common in the UK. You see someone like, and just because maybe one, they don't have the right papers, or two, they're just not getting the opportunities. So be careful if you go there, don't get too stuck in like all these casual jobs. Salary wise, I think in the UK you earn quite low compared to Canada. So if you're thinking about hustling, making all this money while you're young and all of that stuff, I think Canada is definitely the place. There's so many opportunities. Like I've compared jobs like in Canada and UK and see how much they're earning, and I can see clearly that they pay more on this side of the world compared to the UK. Even me as a UX designer, I've seen like how much they pay UX designer of my level in the UK compared to Canada is pretty low. So yeah, that's another thing to consider. So cons of immigrating to Canada. One, I find the processing extremely long. Even when people that have heard the story that applied as a student and they're applying for student visa, I think the processing is quite long. And express entry, oh my god, if you know express entry processing, I think it's quite long. So it's long, but in long term it's beneficial. So you need to be patient. You need to, if you are thinking of coming to Canada through express entry or other means, you need to be very patient. You need to have other things that you're doing while you're waiting, because it can really get frustrating. You need to maybe have UK as your plan B in case you want to consider just leaving. You can do like UK short term and still have like Canada processing along the way. So by the time maybe they answer you for Canada, you'll be done with UK and at least you'd have done something with yourself and with your life. But I find like processing coming to Canada is extremely long. It's basically a 2 to 3 years plan. Like you should be giving yourself, like from 1 to 3 years basically you should be giving yourself. It can take that long. And another cons of processing Canada is the requirement is quite high, and I get it. Like I get it for the country. They are trying to bring in people that will not be a liability to their country, like people with higher education and people that have like money that won't come immediately and start claiming benefits and all of that. But I still think it's quite like high. You have to do English test, sometimes you have to do French test, you have to have like a particular point and you'll be in the pool, and you have to have a master's. The person applying needs to be the person maybe with a master's or more work experience. I think the requirement is quite high. Like I just want to leave the country. I am not going to apply for presidential post or something. But yeah, again, like I said, with Canada you need to focus on long term and say, okay, this is worth investing all my energy into, because I know as soon as I get my PR and I get into the country, it will just be like easy and straightforward. But while processing it, I think the requirement is quite high, and I don't think there's anything we can do about that. I think it is what it is. You just have to like pick like what you want and what you want to do. Lastly, I would say Canada can be lonely. That's why you see many people like complaining a lot about Canada. It can be a very lonely country compared to the UK. And the country is like very big, like everybody is far away, nobody is close to you. So if you're living in somewhere in Ontario, the person that you know living in Ontario might still be like 2-3 hours away from you. So if you're considering, like, if you're that type of person that being alone really affects you, this is something you seriously need to consider, because the country might be lonely. Or what I would say is always, when you're planning to immigrate to Canada, start networking. And if you're lucky enough to have like family members here or people that you know from back home, maybe try to go to the same city that they are, so you at least you have somebody familiar close to you, so you're not just like all by yourself and just like very lonely. So yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope this can help you make that decision that you're making right now, or even help you put some things into perspective that you're not thinking before. Short term, definitely go to the UK. If you want short-term benefit, you just want to jackpot from the country, you just want to leave the country, you still have like interest in continuing your education, and you're just tired of Nigeria or wherever you're coming from, definitely consider the UK. But if you're thinking long term, you know what, I have a family now, or I don't want to have all my family in Nigeria, I want something like long-term benefit, I want to become a citizen of another country in addition to where you're coming from, and I really want to get that high-paying job quickly as much as I can. I'm interested in more opportunities like investment opportunities and all of that stuff, then consider coming to Canada. The other things that I probably didn't mention in this video, so if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'll try to reply you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.